Okay. One of the things that's been on my mind is how challenging it is for most of us, and it was for me as well, to understand and act in practice self-compassion, which is so interesting, isn't it? Like you wouldn't think it would be that challenging. Like most of us, if we saw, a little person who was suffering, would just feel moved to help out, extend a hand, speak tenderly. It just is organic. It's kind of natural. If it's not natural, there's something wrong. But then to apply that to oneself seems to be very difficult, and it must have to do with that we weren't treated with tenderness when we needed it. Like it's just so foreign to us to think that when we feel badly or we're suffering or even when we've done something wrong, it's actually possible for the other person to correct us with tenderness. Like, and if that's not part of our experience, then like it's not in our imagination. We have no sort of we haven't seen it happen. Um, and I think the second factor is by the time we start to imagine what self-compassion might be like, the imprinting is we've already been imprinted with a kind of belief that it's my fault, like, and I'm bad, and I don't deserve tenderness. I don't deserve to be treated well, and it's so deep. I just in my own experience, it was kind of this nut of self-loathing, which if you asked me if I didn't like myself before I had this experience of seeing that I didn't like myself, I would have said, that's crazy. Like, I like myself. I'm a pretty nice guy. But I think the combination of those two things, uh, this lack of experience in being treated with tenderness, and then our own unconscious belief that it's my fault, I'm unworthy, I don't deserve to be treated. It takes it offline as a possibility. And yet, I think everything depends. If you want to talk about healing, I think healing depends ultimately on being able to treat ourselves well. And you've heard me talk about how the moment we do, we're already in our heart self. So the practice of self-compassion is the presence of our true self. That's actually who we are. And then I thought about, like, in an ayahuasca experience, how did I get there? And my way in was after a shaman had worked on me, and I had been sort of, I'd gone through sorrow and suffering, and I went back to my mat, and I was led to scan my body and stop at all the parts of my body that had been injured, and there were a lot because I'm an athlete, like probably 3 or 4 concussions as a little guy. My mother slapped me across the face frequently. And then shoulder injuries, knee injuries, sprained ankles, broken thumbs. And so I just went through my body, and then I started with my skull, and I just felt, and I started touching myself tenderly where I had been hurt. And most recently, I did this because I had a fall last winter and fell on my back of my skull, and I just lingered there. And I started talking to that part, to the skull, and saying, "I'm so sorry that that happened, and you got so hurt." I sort of talked to it as if it was animated, as if it was a live being, which I believe it is actually. we've been misled about the body, that there's no intelligence and there's no consciousness in the body, but there is. And so, and in this ceremony too, I did the same with my shoulder. And I just talked to it and I said, you know, I've just used you. I haven't really been in relationship with you. I used you to throw, to shoot, to weightlift. I just put you through so much without ever actually listening to you. So it was a real connection. And I think you can do this with all the injuries in your body. And this is going to be a practice that I recommend. I'm going to actually do a series of all these things I'm going to get to, right? The guided meditations, where I'm going to lead people through to do a body scan and just pause and speak tenderly. And it's not just injuries, of course. It could be like illnesses, disease. Maybe it's cancer. Maybe there's stuff that's happened in your gut. Maybe, but to speak to the cells, and I think actually we could talk to the mitochondria at a very deep cellular level to feel into, geez, you're really tired, aren't you? Like I've been making you work too hard without enough real energy, without enough rest. I'm sorry about that. You've had to find ways to compensate and you're getting worn out. And then you shift to your adrenals and really realize that they're worn out, you know? And you come from a place of just life is challenging. It's hard. And we've been disconnected. Our medical models, our educational system, or even our spiritual lineages have kind of denigrated the body as if it's not like us, as if it's not doesn't possess intelligence and consciousness, which it does. So I'm thinking that a daily practice could be to choose a body part, an organ, and just touch it, and then speak to it tenderly, and then you're in self-compassion, and then you're in your heart, and then you're in ego. You're out of ego. And what's true, of course, for the outer layer of us, the body, is also true for the more subtle layers, the emotional, the psychological, the mind, the spiritual. Those in the Hindu tradition, each of those is also a body. There are 5 different bodies: spiritual body, the mental body, the physical body, the subtle body, and the causal body. But we can have a relationship of tenderness with all of them and discover that it's entirely possible, no matter what we're going through, no matter what we're putting ourselves through, to return to that kind of compassionate relationship with all of those different bodies. And that's the way in. There's sort of I'm looking for a pragmatic way to talk about self-compassion. Everyone just goes self-compassion. It's like, what? Like, but that's what it is. It's like, oh, God, you're so tight. You had to tighten to protect me, Ed. It's like, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll give you some attention. And just the caressing of your own body, not only speaking to it, but actually holding that part tenderly, the way you'd touch a child who's been hurt. And then you just let the feelings come, whatever comes. It could, you know, if it's if there's some sadness, if there's some fear, there's some anger associated with that. It's like the body has also had to hold all of that. So you release it, and it's a gesture of self-compassion that you, okay, I've got this now, body. You can release it. Thank you for holding it. Does that make sense? Like, I just wonder if it seems obvious, but I haven't spoken about it that way before. So like I'm really curious about or interested in finding a pathway for people to actually experience self-compassion. And this seems like one very concrete way that we can do it. And of course, we can do it as well when we are practicing mindfulness and the self-critical voice of judgment is sounding. Like, okay, that's another body. That's the mental body. That's the mind body of ego. And we can listen, but not get mad at the part of us that gets self-critical, because even that part learned, that's an adaptation as well. So we can even be tender. We don't have to listen to it. Like we don't have to, because we know it's mistaken. But we can just talk to it with tenderness. I know you learned that. I know that like being critical of yourself is kind of a preemptive move so that nobody else can be more critical of you and you'll be devastated again. But it's okay. Like I've got you. Like I've got like you can. It's okay, and it's okay to let me feel um, whatever's underneath the self-criticism. So I can't imagine any conditions in which self-compassion is not called for, any kind of suffering, and is not possible.